Retribution Paladin is changing fast heading into Midnight. But not all of it's good. There are some wins, some losses, and a few design decisions that really should worry you. This one's a big one, so buckle up. Before we dive in, I wanted to get a couple things out of the way. I don't anticipate any further design changes for Retribution until the 12.1 patch. What you see now is likely what we're going to have through the first tier of Midnight. We will absolutely see numerical tuning before Season 1 starts and even into Season 1. This is going to help the spec out, but some of these issues are deeply rooted in the design of the class. I'm going to be fairly negative here, but I still want to stress that I enjoy every moment I play Retribution, and I'm quite happy with a lot of the stuff the developers added for Midnight. Retribution is fun. I love playing it, but that doesn't mean we can't see it improved, and it certainly doesn't mean we shouldn't provide feedback. If you enjoyed it in The War Within, you'll likely enjoy it in Midnight, so here's an assortment of footage from The War Within while we talk about this issue. Hope you enjoy. So this transition into Midnight has been a massive mixed bag. There are some genuinely good changes here, but they do come with some pretty serious costs. And the more I've played it, I think Retribution is running into the same core problem it's had for years. Just this time it's amplified a bit more. So let's talk about what changed and why it feels worse in practice, and what I think Blizzard actually needs to do to fix it. But let's start with the positives. There absolutely were improvements from The War Within into Midnight. Execution Sentence was revamped and feels much better. This change is massive, and it's really well done. Quickened Invocation getting a 30-second reduction was something I fought for during the beta cycle, and I'm so happy to see it. Judge, Jury, and Executioner is a great talent. It always feels fun to take, and I love the Holy Power refund. Divine Exaction's a blast, and it makes Divine Toll feel like it felt in Shadowlands. And talent pathing is slightly better than before. Not perfect, but still a noticeable improvement. All of these are good things. But here's the problem. Retribution was never the most complex or complicated spec, but it did allow for skill expression and mastery. So now we're down to 2-ish Holy Power builders and 1 Holy Power spender, at least on single target. Yes, we still have things like Wake of Ashes, Hammer of Light, Execution Sentence, Avenging Wrath, and even Divine Toll, but those are all cooldowns specifically. They're not really a part of your moment-to-moment decision making, the exception being using Hammer of Light when it procs. And for the most part, most of your gameplay is just pressing the same 3 buttons where you build and you spend. And I think there's a huge loss for the spec. Missing that one additional rotational button, which came around and execute or during cooldown windows, was just a little added complexity that was a nice thing to have. So this leads directly into Ret's biggest design issue right now, or one of the biggest ones, is that Blizzard can't decide what to do with Templar Strikes and Crusading Strikes. This is a core design conflict, and these two talents actively fight each other, and as long as they both exist in their current form, Retribution's design space is completely constrained. Pre-Midnight, I was fine with Crusading Strikes. I even liked it. I thought it was pretty good. But now I'm firmly against it. With only 2 generators, automated resource generation just doesn't feel good. There is downtime and it's very noticeable, especially in early gear. But I really miss having an extra button to press. Whether it was Hammer of Wrath or in this case Templar Strikes, it just feels good to press more buttons. And that might just be a take from my end of things. But I play the game to press buttons, I don't play to wait around. Templar Strikes isn't really the best either. It's a byproduct of this whole conflict. The combo mechanic is really underbaked and unexciting, and it's barely even noticeable. There's a ton of design space to make this ability interesting and impactful. But the key issue under this is Blizzard needs to commit to a design direction. Crusading Strikes and Templar Strikes cannot coexist without causing design paralysis. We saw this in beta. Crusading Strikes receive constant adjustments. Does it attack faster? Does it attack slower? Do we remove it entirely? There was a clear vision heading into beta, and then they decided that's not what they wanted and then spent the rest of the beta cycle trying to fix an issue that they removed in the first patch. That's not great, and it doesn't lead towards a good pathway forward for Ret. I mean, if we look towards Havoc Demon Hunter as probably the most reasonable example here, they solved this by removing Demon's Bite entirely from the talent tree. Retribution needs that same level of decisiveness from the developers. They need to pick one and then just build the specialization around it. Holy Power generation is the heartbeat of the spec. You build and you spend, and for having, let's say, a third of your spenders come from a very different gameplay loop, I think puts the spec in a spot where it's not able to play consistently all the time. And I think there's room for improvement there. So we also have Hero Talents 2.0. These came in strong in the War Within, but things have changed, as expected. Power was siphoned out of both Herald of the Sun and Templar, and conceptually that makes sense. There's always some transition where you pull power out of something and put it into another as you make expansion-based transitions. And so the War Within did put a ton of weight in those abilities, and they definitely needed to be reined in. I mean, upwards of half your damage could come from your hero talent. That's quite a bit. And so in Season 3, hero talents pretty much were your spec, and it's healthy to shift away from that. But the reality behind it is this transition was anything but seamless. I'm going to primarily focus on Templar here because Herald of the Sun barely saw any play, but Templar gave us uncapped AoE through Wrathful Descent. I mean, Empyrean Hammers were a huge portion of our AoE damage, and now they're practically gutted. Present, but not great. And this wouldn't be a problem if the rest of Ret's kit was adjusted to compensate. And let's be real, it wasn't. In Midnight, our AoE is mostly Blade of Justice, alongside some related Apex interactions, and Divine Storm. Other things like Blessed Champion, Tempest of the Lightbringer, and Blade of Vengeance do add some benefit to AoE, but they're usually not meaningful contributions. Judgment Cleave is a tickle. Divine Storm really doesn't hit very hard unless you're playing Herald of the Sun, and Blade of Vengeance is capped and runs into some of the same experience that Divine Storm has. And Divine Storm, it's got a major problem. It's soft capped at 5 targets. We do gain some additional damage from multiple targets over 5, but not much. And we were never AoE kings in the War Within, but we were good enough in Mythic Plus because we had A, frequent cooldown windows, and B, a source of uncapped AoE damage. Both of which are relatively gone. You can still opt into Radiant Glory, but it is a weaker damage pattern than before. And you do technically have uncapped AoE, but it's so much less. If we look toward Raid, the situation is worse. Because Empyrean Hammers and Hammer of Light carried so much of our AoE damage, we could run mostly single target builds in Raid and still have meaningful contributions in AoE. In Midnight, that's mostly gone. Our single target rotation has almost no additional AoE baked into it. You do get something, but it's not much, and it's certainly not what it was before. So again, we find ourselves in a situation where we may have to sacrifice single target output to gain lackluster AoE. Not good AoE, but lackluster AoE. If we're already behind on single target, this just makes us less and less desirable. The trade-offs are less than before in previous iterations of Ret, but they're certainly present. And I do want to note we did gain a new Apex talent. It does have some additional AoE benefits, but it's nowhere near as strong as what we lost. And it does have some other issues, but we'll get into those in a little bit. Another part of this transition into Midnight is what happened with Hammer of Wrath. Having Hammer of Wrath being merged into Judgment is something I actually suggested years ago, all the way back in early Shadowlands beta. And I'm not against the idea, I actually like it quite a lot. At least lately, it's been hard to really find a niche for Hammer of Wrath, and what it's come down to most of the time is it's our least prioritized ability. Where previously, if we look towards older iterations of Ret, Hammer of Wrath slapped, it was really strong. I'd love to see it strong again. And this might be a pathway to get there. But this implementation currently, I'd say it completely misses the mark. Judgment and Hammer of Wrath now generate the same holy power, do very similar damage, they apply the same debuffs, And they have very similar visuals. They're pretty identical. And I do quite like the new animation for Hammer of Wrath, but it does look like a modernized Judgment, and now Judgment looks archaic. They both have the same similar motion and animation track, but there's not much else to distinguish them. On top of that, the merge introduced a ton of bugs that still aren't fixed yet. Hammer of Wrath needs a real identity and not just be a fancy Judgment. It needs to feel uniquely different from Judgment. And I'll toss out a few ideas here. Take them or leave them. But it could easily generate extra holy power. Create a damage taken or damage vulnerability window similar to what Judgment did in Legion. The damage could ramp with successive casts, so the more you cast Hammer of Wrath, the more damage it does. Could even do some cool stuff like consume Art of War, would actually help out Herald and maybe open up that design space. Or simply, just be an execute again and be usable on targets that are sub 20% health. I'm not a coding expert, but it should be really easy to see if your target's 20% or less, change Judgment to Hammer of Wrath. My personal preference would be that Hammer of Wrath would generate 2 holy power, as well as automatically replacing Judgment at sub 20%. There would be some implications for making these changes, I get that, but it would immediately make Hammer of Wrath feel distinct from Judgment, and I think that's probably the most important thing here. Oh, and it actually needs tuning too, because right now, Hammer of Wrath hits like a wet noodle compared to Blade of Justice. It needs some love here. And speaking of Blade of Justice, let's touch on the Apex talent. The first issue here is there's way too much power put into Art of War and Righteous Cause. They're important parts of our rotational engine. They allow us to get resets of Blade of Justice. It's really important, but there is just too much power there. Let me clarify. Anytime a generator hits harder than a spender, that's not a particularly healthy state for gameplay. And I'm not sure we're quite there yet, but if we ever do end up wanting to either delay spending holy power or just prioritizing a generator proc, something's wrong there. And at least on AoE, there's a real chance you might do it because that conal effect is that important. And the second issue is actually the cone effect. The proc is very frequent, and positioning enemies perfectly inside a cone, especially when ads aren't stacked well, it's not great gameplay and can feel bad more than good. You should be excited to send this ability and have this cone of light splash over enemies and do great damage. That's exciting. But the problem is, if your tank doesn't gather things well, or the bosses aren't positioned in a good or effective way, it's probably going to feel worse than it does feel good, and you want this moment to be good. And with how the ability works right now, you can do some weird, like turn around, no scope 360 gameplay where you're going to have to change where your orientation is to hit targets that might be behind you or to the side of you. And it's fine, you can do that, it's a skill expression, I guess, but that's not something that's been a core gameplay element for WoW. Character positioning and rotational execution is a core piece of it. Spinning around your camera or positioning your character to the right or to the left, not so much. The third issue here is it can miss entirely, and that's probably one of the worst parts of this. It can be outranged because it doesn't scale with the increase of range from jurisdiction, so it can miss your target entirely when you're using from that max range. And on the other hand, if you're too close, it can just miss the hitbox of the enemy target. Both feel terrible. There's an easy fix here. There are a couple options, but in addition to a cone, it could have just a small AoE explosion around the player. You could hit the targets immediately around you, and the cone could get things that are a little bit further outside of your hitbox. I mean, my preference is to have it just be a small AoE explosion, but I'm open for whatever as long as it makes the gameplay better. If you want to use some examples, look at Light's Decree or Immolation Aura as good options. It splashes damage around you. It's not huge, but it does what it needs to do. It provides an AoE damage around you as the player. And I think that's pretty good. Problem solved. Outside of design decisions though, because we've talked a lot about that, there is an underlying core issue I do want to discuss. And it's a big one. Retribution has no niche. And a lot of folks might say that, but Ret brings utility, or it has an immunity. And while those are good, it's not really what I want to talk about here. And that this is an overly simplified explanation. But you can isolate damage patterns into, we'll say, 4 profiles for WoW. You've got single target, AoE, cleave, and split cleave. And in my opinion, spec should be strong in one, average in 2, and weak in the last. For Ret, we're usually average in 2 and then weak in 2, with no true strength in sight. As we look towards midnight, at least with current tuning, we're looking pretty weak across the board. That can change very quickly, but it is a topic of conversation. So if our utility is subpar, damage is rough, and we do nothing that stands out from other melee DPS, and also certainly not standing out from other paladin specializations, we could be in a tough spot. Blizzard could do some crazy tuning and fix the damage issue, because that can happen in a hotfix, but some of these other issues, especially related to utility and class uniqueness, still persist. And I won't say the issue is the class tree itself, but I think I have a solution with using the class tree. To elaborate further, Holy and Protection Paladins bring identical utility to Retribution, and oftentimes more or just better utility. This causes Retribution to always be less preferred than Holy or Protection, specifically because of that utility. And don't get me wrong, you're a good Ret, you'll go to a raid, that'll be fine, but the point is, at the bleeding edge, everything you can bring to the table matters. And I think that mindset, for better or for worse, does trickle down to the entire WoW population. Whether it really matters or not is up for discussion, but people think it matters. When people think it matters, it's going to matter if you're going to try to get into groups, get invited to raid, actually see raid playtime, things like that. Perceptions matter here. And I mean, there are niche reasons of why you'd want to bring a Ret or multiple paladins. Sometimes you might need 2 blessings of protection or multiple blessings of freedom. But this is a rare occurrence. We very rarely see that. It happens, because it does, but it's extremely rare. And this leads to Ret having to be exceptional when it comes to damage to compete here. And let's touch on sort of utility as a whole before we go into class specifics. It's a little bit limited in scope. Divine Shield, while really good and very useful, it's not a unique immunity. Other classes have this. Blessing of Protection, probably the most egregious example, is a glorified bleed dispel, and it's on a 4 to 5 minute cooldown. It has uses, but very few and far between, at least in raid. And Blessing of Sacrifice isn't even a damage reduction, it's just a damage transfer. Yeah, it can take some pressure off of a target, but you're taking that pressure. And oftentimes that's not always the best thing to do. Sometimes it's good, but not always. And if you're running with another Holy Paladin or actually competent healers, they're going to take the initial responsibilities on having externals. So let's shift back to the class tree for a second here. Most of our current choices on this tree are numerically irrelevant and rarely useful in PvE. Or in some cases, they're just a strictly worse version that Holy and Prot can select and they get something better. So the fix here is putting equal utility within the class tree. And I think some of the best examples would be adding something like Spell Warding, or here's a hot take, or a Mastery into the class tree for all Paladin specializations. It's been a while. Aura Mastery hasn't been around, I believe, since end of Mists of Pandaria. But I think it fits the bill in giving Paladin an option which impacts the raid or party, and a good one at that. And I know this is contentious, but the power levels could be slightly adjusted per specialization. I mean, maybe Holy's version of Aura Mastery does have some additional damage reduction or some healing or something like that. And maybe Protection's version of Spell Warding has a lower cooldown or a second charge, or maybe does something else like increase move speed, just something more. And maybe Retribution has something unique too. But the intention here is to provide relative parity. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it does need to be a compelling reason to bring a Paladin, not just a Holy or Protection Paladin. And a final note here on the class tree. There's so much opportunity here that I think is wasted. If you look back to the past, we have blessings, auras, seals, And I mean, it's touched on lightly there, but almost none of it is used in a meaningful way. Instead, we get some crappy fear cast that you have to take multiple talent points to really make work, and it has no practical experience in Raid or Mythic Plus. I mean, come on here, we can do better. Give us something useful. And hero talents are also shared between specializations, and these aren't issue-free either. Templar feels amazing, and Hammer of Light is iconic. I mean, it's a big bonk and feels really good. Herald of the Sun, on the other hand, it isn't fun. It's just lesser. It's got worse numbers, so it's numerically subpar. Dawnlight is forgettable at best, and it has almost no active gameplay. The only redeeming value is the Light Within makes the rotation very build spend centric, and it hits really hard. But that's it. And I mean, visually, a thin beam of light from Dawnlight and Sun's avatar is barely noticeable in melee, and more often than not, it just connects to one target. If you look back towards early The War Within beta, you could have 6 or 7 beams out on multiple targets, and it looked pretty cool, but what we have today, it's just nowhere near what it could have been. And I think if Blizzard wants these to be real choices, they need to focus on different damage profiles or radically different gameplay loops. The only times people play multiple hero talents, so one in one fight and one in another, is because they do damage differently. And right now, there's no choice, and that feels like a shame. There could easily be a world where we play Herald of the Sun for AoE and Templar in single target. Is that a perfect place to land? Not likely, but at least gets us playing multiple specs and gets a little bit different flavor. I've gotten a lot of feedback from players that they don't like playing one hero talent the entire expansion, especially when there's another option. I mean, if it was all they had, it wouldn't really matter, but when Herald of the Sun could be an appealing and incredibly fun choice, and it's just not, nobody's winning there. The designers aren't winning because nobody's picking something they worked hard on, and the players aren't picking because they like to have choice. It's a lose-lose. And there are less important problems, but I think they're still worth mentioning. The specialization tree has almost no real decisions to make. In single target, we have 2 choices. So do you want Imperium Power or Judgment of Justice? And do you want Radiant Glory or Crusade? That's it for single target. As of right now, you're going to pick Judgment of Justice and you're going to pick Crusade. That's it. AoE choices, while they are at least present, they're really about losing as little single target as possible while picking up some marginal AoE benefit. Talents like Empyrean Legacy, Righteous Cause, and Mastery modifying nodes are also a problem. They shouldn't really exist. I mean, Empyrean Legacy does practically nothing. You just do your rotation and it happens. There's nothing interesting there. Righteous Cause does the exact same thing as Art of War, just worse. And the Mastery modifying nodes, as far as I'm aware, there is no other specialization in the game that puts that much additional benefit behind a Mastery lock node. It's just a weird addition when I think that should just be a core component of Mastery. And I get there will always be dead talents. I mean, look at Sanctify as a great example. No one's taken that thing. But I think with appropriate attention, talents could be compelling places where we make decisions based on the content we're doing. And they need to feel different. You can't have one talent with 2 nodes that does the same exact thing. That's just not great. And so as we look towards Season 1 in the Voidspire, Ret's got some things coming. It struggles on split cleave, understandably. We can't really hit 2 targets when they're far apart. Council fights are pretty rough because of how our AoE is tuned. And when ads are spread out, we can't hit everything. Our AoE is pretty tight-knit around where we're at. And guess what? There's a council fight in Raid. We got split cleave that's pretty present, and ads are spread out on a couple bosses. And if we're weak on single target, and if we're weak on things like split cleave and council fights, and when ads are spread out and things that are very present in the Voidspire, there's really not a compelling reason to bring a Retribution Paladin at the high end. There are other classes that do what we do, just better. And historically, we've started most patches undertuned, we get drip-fed buffs throughout the season, we reach average, and then fall off again. Occasionally, we might have a season where we perform slightly higher, but it certainly wasn't right off the bat. And then you have something like Instrument of Retribution, which gives us an artificial pad during early progress. When people die a lot, we do more damage, so we're actually outperforming what our eventual end state is going to be. So as the weeks go by and people get better and die less, you're going to do worse damage, and that's not going to be your fault. And I've recommended alternatives to this, and I think if you want to keep Instrument of Retribution in place, have it be a defensive benefit only. If someone dies, great, so be it. Give us a massive DR for a couple seconds and move on. There doesn't need to be a damage component here. It only hurts. And so with Voidspire on the horizon, right now I think we're really starting below average, and I have concerns about where we fit into a raid comp. If you're a great player, awesome, you're gonna see raid playtime. But the reality is, even if you're great, it doesn't feel good to be subpar. And I know this has been a lot to cover. I've yapped a lot. But here's a rapid fire list of things I'd like to see changed at some point during midnight, ideally sooner than later for some of this. We need proper tuning and a real niche. The Apex needs adjusted to be a lights decrease style explosion. Instrument of Retribution needs to go or adjusted to be defensive only. Divine Exaction should move into the spec tree and replace Empyrean Legacy. People like to pick fun talents. Divine Spurs should be adjusted to prevent knockbacks. Spell Warding, Aura Mastery, or just something new should be added to the class tree to give some parity on utility. And I know I've been saying this for a while here, and I'm going to probably keep saying it, but Herald of the Sun needs a redesign. And maybe it can be delayed until the last Titan. And who knows, maybe hero talents are rolled into the base talent tree at that time. Only time will tell. But either way, it needs some love. But yeah, those are my thoughts and feelings here. And I know it's a lot, and obviously I'm passionate about this topic. I wouldn't talk for that long otherwise. But Retribution is my favorite specialization, and it's not even close. And since you've made it this far, it's likely yours too. So if you haven't, make sure you do subscribe for more Retribution content, because I know you love it as much as me. There's been a lot of doom and gloom here, but I really am excited to see how Retribution improves from a design perspective, really throughout Midnight and beyond. But right now, I think Retribution deserves a niche and it deserves proper tuning. The design team has done a really good job about making changes and moving Retribution to the next level patch after patch. They're doing a good job, and I want to commend that. But at the same point, I think we could do more. So we'll see. Maybe we'll see some good stuff in the future. So if you haven't already, do join the jesirtv Discord. I've linked it in the description. And joining gets you access to Retribution specific resources and other content. And for those who do want to support what I do here, check out the Patreon page linked below. These videos happen because you make them happen. Members also get some cool benefits like log reviews, UI support, blog updates, and for music lovers like me, I have something called Jesir Radio. So take a look. And as always, thank you for watching. We'll see you at midnight.